Just when we thought we'd have a dry spell in terms of content, Blizzard released a new control map for Overwatch heading into the new year. It features a good amount of verticality with speeding hover cars, an underground flank, and a jump pad elevator. Hey guys, JV here with Level Up Gaming, and today we're sharing our overview of the new Overwatch map, OASIS. Starting with the basics, OASIS is a control map just like Ilios, Lijiang Tower, and Nepal from the base game. And so what we're dealing with here is 3 separate control point stages, so there's 3 different areas to get accustomed to. Before we take a look at each of the stages individually, I've had a few hours of playtime with OASIS, and so I just wanted to share a set of observations that I've noticed so far. And compared to normal control point maps, the ones that I listed that have already been in the game, I think that OASIS has a lot of verticality and multiple levels that you really need to watch out for. There's lots of different corridors and routes that you can take from one point to another point, and that's something you have to watch out for. I wouldn't say there's any more than, some of the more complicated maps that are already in the game, but it's just a lot to get used to when it's just thrown into the game. In my experience, I haven't found one set of heroes that seems to dominate. Everything seems pretty balanced in terms of long lines of sight. There's those for McCree, Hanzo, Widow Soldier, etc., but there's also lots of corners and close range combat areas for Reapers or Winstons, some heroes that don't really excel in open areas. There's some open areas, there's some close areas, and one other thing I noticed, especially compared to other control maps on Ilios and Lijiang, there are some nice areas in Nepal as well where you can boop people off of the map with Lucio's Soundwave and Pharah's little concussive grenade. There doesn't seem to be a lot of boop-friendly locations for Lucio and Pharah on this map compared to the other control maps. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to run Lucio here because I can boot people off, it's probably not as likely on this map because those locations, there are some locations on the map, but they seem to be off the point and they're not really central to the main conflicts that you're going to be getting into. The first stage of OASIS is City Center, and this particular map has a lot of unique characteristics. Number one is the hover cars. On either side, depending on where you spawn, there is a giant highway and an intersection of hover cars that meets in the middle, and you can kind of use this to flank around to get in certain positions that the enemy team may not be expecting you to get to. You definitely have to be a Genji, a Tracer, a Soldier, a very fast-moving character in order to run along the highway and kind of get around that flank. It's not a super strategic flank, it is off the point, but just if you want to catch the enemy team by surprise, then you can certainly do that. Also, these hover cars, if they hit you at all, will kill you. So I'm sure there's going to be an insane Zarya play where there's a Graviton Surge that sucks the entire enemy team over onto the highway and those cars just murder them all. City Center also has a jump pad elevator, which is just off the point and gives you a ton of visibility up on this catwalk. It's the only way to get up into this area. So this is what I would call a power position for this particular stage. You can go up the jump pad elevator, get up here, and then you can kind of hide to either side and actually hold your ground up on this area. The downside, of course, is that you are visible from a lot of areas on the map, so people can easily counter you, although the only way up there, unless you're a Junkrat or someone who can get in the air like Pharah, is this elevator. So if you're able to defend the elevator and hide on the sides, I would definitely say that this is a power position up here. Another thing to point out is that the capture point is a giant, big, circular, open area, but there is a center pavilion, and you can kind of hover around that central point and not get shot from very wide open areas. So like I said, there's a lot of long lines of sight, particularly on this stage, but at the same time, if you're a Reaper, you can get on this point and kind of play around this pavilion in the central area, and you won't be totally vulnerable, still capping the point for your team. Since this map is so new and not everyone has had their hands on it, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the health pack locations. I think those are useful in the early days of the map being out so we can all get accustomed to where they are. Coming out of spawn on either side, we have a large health pack near this spire on this walkway. I haven't found this one to be super particularly useful unless you're really backed up and the enemy team is really pushing your team back into spawn, but nonetheless, there they are. We also have a large health pack on the hover car side where both of the tracks meet from either side, so this is a really interesting one. If you're trying to flank around the side, of course, you will see this one. At the same time, some people won't even notice this one because it's way off the point. It's not really in any central conflict location, so this is something to keep in mind. Also, there's one behind the jump pad elevator, and that is one that's going to be a little more relevant. It's closer to the point, and I think people will go out and seek that one a lot. And of course, we've got a handful of health packs on either side. From spawn, you can really visibly see all three of them. There's one point where you can see all three health packs, and they're just very close to the point and in some side rooms. So if you need to get a little bit of health, just remember those are hiding there waiting for you. Some final thoughts before we move on. City Center is definitely the most open of these options. It kind of reminds me of the well location in Ilios. So there's a lot of verticality. If you're playing a Pharah, this is definitely going to be a good map if you can dodge McCrees, soldiers, Hanzos, whatever may be trying to shoot you down. Pharah is also going to be a great option for countering whoever wants to use the jump pad elevator, because you can get up there without having to go up through the elevator. So Pharah is going to be a nice pick on this stage. The second stage on Oasis is Gardens, and the unique characteristic about this particular map is the verticality. We've got this overhanging upper balcony, which you can actually cap the point from, and that's going to be an interesting little dynamic there if you can stay alive. And there's also a small little hole on the cap point, which a Pharah, maybe a Junkrat from that central catwalk balcony can get up to as well, and also a Widow. Let's not forget about Widow. It's certainly worth pointing out that this is the largest of the Oasis stages. This really is a big map, and there's 3 fairly large lanes. Right now we're on the outer lane, which really doesn't matter that much. It's the furthest from the cap point, so you're not going to be using this lane that much unless you're going for a really ridiculous flank. But it's worth noting that the other large 2 lanes have a lot of different ways in between them, so it's worth checking those out. I wouldn't say that the central overhanging balcony is the power position of this map, because it's so easy to die from there because you're visible from everywhere. So the power position for me so far has been the upper hallways just off the point where you've got a little bit of cover. So if you're playing a soldier, you're playing a McCree, somebody that's got some long range distance, you can pick people off, from just off the point and still defend. You've also got a few flank options off to the side. You can easily go up the stairs and flank around people that are on the point, and they won't notice because they won't be paying attention. And so I think there's a lot of different options from this upper hallways area. There are 5 large health packs on this particular stage, 1 on either side near the spawn. This one really doesn't come into play at all. I've never really gone back to get this one unless that my entire team's died and I just need to run back and regroup with my team. So there's that one. There's also some on the lower side on either side that are more relevant because they're closer to the point. If you need a breather, you can just back out, grab that health pack, and then get right back on the point. But the one that I see myself using the most, and a lot of other people, is the one, just a singular one, that's in the pavilion just off the point. That's kind of the central area where you're going to meet the enemy team probably right when the game begins. There are a handful of small health packs near the spawns on either side, and again, I don't think they come into play that much. I think the most important small health pack on this map is going to be on the lower balcony in the middle, right in the middle. So there's only one. You'll have to be fighting with the enemy team for that one. I think that's a nice little small boost of health, and it's not, taking away from the battle too much. One final note, Gardens also has this central pillar that holds up that middle catwalk balcony, and so you can play around this if you are a Reaper, if you are a McCree, and you need to get on the point in order to cap it. You can use that as cover and kind of play around this pillar, which is nice compared to a lot of the control maps in the game where there isn't something in the very dead center that you can use for cover. The third and final stage for Oasis is called University, and what's unique about this map is it has a little underground portion which you can use to flank, and also has a very strategically placed large health pack that of course we're going to talk about. But you can go underneath and you can flank around the enemy. That's probably something you're going to encounter a lot, both on your end and the enemy team's end. But I think the power position for this map is the balcony that overhangs on one of the sides, kind of the side towards the outside of whatever building that we're on. What's great about this position is there's so much visibility from this area. It is very easily flanked, so that is something you have to watch out for. But for example, if you throw a bastion up there and no one is paying attention to where it is, that bastion is going to get a lot of kills because it is just a lot of visibility from up here. There's also a small health pack, which really helps. Taking a closer look at this underground route, there's one central lane underground, so it's not too complex, but it's the same on either side, and then it leads to the central area where there's a giant health pack there, and then there's one corridor up the middle that splits into 2 routes that bring you right to the point. And the reason, again, this is important is because this is going to come into play a lot. Why? Because there's a giant health pack there. So if you're on the point, for example, you're trying to hold it off, you got enough of your teammates there to cap it, but you need some health, you can drop down, grab that, and be right back up in just 5 seconds. On the other hand, you might have an enemy jump down there, snag it before you, and whoops, you fell in as well. They're going to kill you because they got that health. So that's going to be something you're definitely going to have to remember and keep in mind as you're playing on this stage. There's also a ton of entry points for this cap point. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 6, 7, 8 different ways to get to this cap point if you count every single different, area to get into. In terms of large health packs, there's actually only 3 on this map. There's one on either side, depending on where you spawn, near the stairs, so the underground entrance, and then there's one at the underground entrance, in that well in the center area. So those are the only ones you need to worry about. There are some small health packs littered around the map. There's one around a far corner near the edge of the building, which you're probably not going to use that much, but then again, if a lot of people don't use it, then you can use it a lot. There's also that one on the balcony, the central one kind of off the point, closer to the spawn side on either side. You probably won't use that one so much. And then another central small health pack right off the point. Again, it's just up the stairs opposite of the balcony. That's probably one that people are going to be going for a lot because it's so easy to get to. That is it for our new map overview on Oasis, and we'd like to hear from you all in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the new Oasis map? How do you think this map plays? Which heroes are favored on this map? Do you like it? Do you think it's fairly balanced? Let us know what you're thinking in the comment section below. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for constant updates on when we're uploading new content. Check out our website at levelupgmg.com, where you'll find complete libraries of every single video we upload moving into the future. Also, if you're feeling generous, consider supporting us further through our Patreon. Becoming a patron allows you to engage further with us and unlock exclusive content like monthly Q&A videos. So visit our Patreon if you'd like to learn more. Finally, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already for more tips and tricks and gaming related videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here on Level Up Gaming.